My name is Meriel, and I used to be the Sculpture Town artist in residence for Harlow last year. And today I'm super excited to show you a couple of simple paper folding techniques that we'll be able to use to turn two-dimensional pieces of paper into three-dimensional shapes like these ones here. It's a really nice, straightforward way of sort of building up all of your sculpting techniques. So first of all, I'm just going to go through a little bit of sort of technical things before we get started. The first thing you might realize is that I am on two screens here. So the one facing you, hopefully that's the main screen you have on display right now. And there's also a second screen, which is just of my hands. So whenever we get to the making part of the session, Kate, who's helping to organize this workshop today, she'll be pinning that video. So you'll be able to see more clearly what's going on with my hands. Another thing just to note as well is that I'm afraid I can't see or hear any of you today, just for safeguarding reasons. So I can't hear your questions directly, but you do have a lot of opportunities to ask me questions. The best way to do that is to simply put your questions in the chat box, and then every 10 minutes or so, Kate's going to just ask me those questions and I'll be able to answer them for you. And following on from that, if you have a question about repeating a certain step, just to bear in mind, we're going to go through each little shape twice. And then if we, by any chance, miss anything, you'll hopefully get a chance to learn the second step when we do it the second time. But if you miss that again, don't worry at all, because we do have a recording of this video that will be available for you afterwards. So at any point, if you miss something, just move on to the next step, and you don't have to worry about getting it perfect the first time. You can always watch it back and continue at a later date as well. So don't worry about that side of things. Another thing just to bear in mind, I know myself, when I'm making all day, I get a bit stressed out. I get a bit like, you know, sometimes a bit stiff. We're going to have an amazing chance to stretch ourselves out a little bit later on in the workshop. About halfway through, we've got a yoga instructor called Grace, who's prepared a special video for us. And we're going to be doing some fun animal-based stretches, which go with the theme of what we're going to do today, which is great. I forgot to mention also, Kate's just going to wave at you briefly, because she's the one who's going to be helping out with asking you the questions.
Drop any
Sorry,
questions
Kate, I forgot
into
to
the chat. No, it's fine. And
I'll carried away. Perfect. So yeah, Kate will be reading those out as you have them. So just drop them in the chat as and when you have the questions, and we'll get them answered for you as soon as we can. Perfect. So that's everything of yoga, a little bit of yoga halfway through. Fantastic. First of all, I would just like to share with you a PowerPoint, which has a really short PowerPoint giving you the ideas and the inspiration behind what we're doing today. So I'm just going to share my screen with you now. Here we are. Perfect. So you might be asking yourself, as it's the name of this workshop, what is a sculptural relief? And here is a brilliant example by William Mitchell, who you may have seen before. There's a few of these in the water garden, and they're a really good example of a sculptural relief because they're flat on one side and they've got these great geometric shapes coming out on the other. You'll often see a sculptural relief on the side of a wall, or perhaps in a building as part of the building. And today we're going to take inspiration from this wonderful sculpture and use that to inspire us to make paper versions today. So here's just a few of the shapes that you might be making today, just to give you a little idea of what it will be like. A few more of the shapes at a different angle. And I also felt like we should maybe try and embrace a little bit more of Harlow sculpture. And so we've got this sculpture here, which is Cat by Jane Ackroyd. And you might find this in the Gibber Gallery. Whenever hopefully it'll be open again, you can go and see this in person. And so what we've done is we've made a little sculptural mashup. So we're going to take the style of William Mitchell and take inspiration from the cat sculpture, and we're going to make a paper relief sculpture that mixes those two ideas together. So you can see on the left, there is just a very simple line drawing template. You may have had a chance to print this out at home, and you'll be able to work on top of it if you have printed it out at home. Do not worry at all if you haven't printed it out. You are very welcome to use any of the techniques we have today to make whatever sort of design you like. You might want to make a lovely landscape with flowers and trees and grass, or you might want to make an amazing cityscape and use all these geometric shapes to make a really cool city. So don't panic if you haven't already printed it out, but if you have, you can work on top of it. And the second design that you may have printed out at home is based on this donkey sculpture by Willie Sukup. And here's just an example of the template for that sculpture and how you might use that template to make yourself a 3D paper relief sculpture. As I said before, be creative, use these templates and these techniques however you like. You make the most of the time you have today. And just to bear in mind that we're only going to make the shape twice, and then we'll move on to the next one. That's simply because we have lots and lots of shapes to learn, and we only have an hour or so to do that. So we just want to try and learn all the techniques today. And once we've learned all the techniques, you'll always be able to go back to your artwork at a later date and fill in the gaps. Like, for example, for the ears of the donkey, that's a lot of shapes. So you might not get to make all of those today, but you will be able to fill them out whenever you get a chance at a later date as well. And you can always watch back the video and have that help you if you've forgotten anything. Perfect, just going to stop that. That's great. So the next step is going to be, Kate is very kindly going to pin the video just of my hands. Oh, perfect. I think that's come up now for you. So you should be able to see my hands and the table here. That's great. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to quickly run through some of the materials that you will need to use to make your paper relief sculptures today. So first of all, as I mentioned before, we have our templates. I've just printed this out onto colored paper. But obviously, if it's just printed on white paper, that's fine. If you haven't printed it out yet, also fine. Get imaginative, have a think of what you might like to use these three-dimensional shapes for. And you can make your own, either it can be representative of something, or it could be a sort of like abstract work as well. There's lots of options. So we've got our templates here. I've also got a piece of cardboard because I find myself that it's a little tricky when you're making something on a piece of paper. It can get a little bit floppy and a little bit difficult to work with. So to just give it some structure, if you have a piece of cardboard, we're going to just stick that on the back of our templates, and that way they'll be nice and not so, they'll be quite firm and they can stick everything on and it won't be too sort of floppy. So if you have a piece of cardboard, that's great. If you don't have one, don't worry, you can still work straight onto your piece of paper without that. That's not a problem. So with that, I do recommend using a Pritt stick to stick your template onto the cardboard, simply because if you use PVA glue, it can get a little messy and a little tricky to work with. Other materials you need today, you've got some bits of colored paper. We're going to use these to make the three-dimensional shapes. I've decided to go with a kind of like blue and yellow theme for my donkey. I think that would be quite nice with the donkey. And then I've gone for kind of greens and pinks with the cat. So you might just want to think about what colors you want to use to make your paper relief sculpture, or you can go multicolored. If you don't have any colored paper, you can always use an old magazine or newspaper or anything like that. So, or you could just use plain paper, learn the techniques today, and once you know them, you can always then use them in another way afterwards. So we've got our paper. We've also got a pair of scissors. That's really useful for cutting out all of your different shapes that you're going to use to make today with. PVA glue and a paintbrush. I think it's easiest to have it on a nice flat tray because we will occasionally be dipping the shapes into the PVA glue, and that way you don't get too much glue on your shape before you stick it down. And other things that could be useful, not necessary, but if you have them, it's great, are a ruler and a pencil, just because it can be handy to draw the shape out first before you cut it out. Perfect. So with that all in mind, we are just going to go ahead and start making today. So the first thing I'm going to do is simply take my template, take my piece of cardboard. I'm going to put that on the piece of cardboard. I'm going to line it up with that straight edge that's already cut, which is great. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to carefully draw around the edge of that A4 piece of paper. You can use a ruler to do this as well if you feel more comfortable using a ruler to do it. Then by all means, again, if you don't have cardboard, don't worry too much. You can always just make straight onto the piece of paper. And now I've got quite a thick piece of cardboard here, so it's a little tricky to cut out. So if you're at home, by all means do get a grown-up to do the cutting out for you if you've got some really thick cardboard like I've got here, because I know it's quite tricky to cut this out. So we're just going to cut out along those lines. Very tricky to cut out. But if you have maybe a cereal box or something like that to use, that would probably be the best thing because it's not so thick, the card, and it's a little bit easier to cut through. So it doesn't have to be super neat. I've just got one bit up there. I'm going to do the other sides. And because I lined it up with the straight edge, I don't need to cut that one. I'll just cut this final side. Tricky with small scissors. So we've got our base now, and it's about the same size as our piece that we're going to work on top of. And if you only have PVA glue, you can use that, but I do recommend if you have a Pritt stick or some double-sided tape, we'll use that instead, just because it's a little bit easier and less messy to work with. Lots of Pritt stick on that. Perfect. Also, don't worry too much if you don't finish this step. You can always stick your finished 3D relief sculpture onto your piece of cardboard at the end. So if you haven't quite yet finished cutting out your piece of cardboard and sticking it down, don't worry at all. You can always finish that at the end of the lesson or whenever you have a chance. But it does help just to have it nice and firm, and it's not going to be too floppy when we stick everything on. Great, so we're going to use our colored paper to make our very first 3D shape. So that is going to be this shape here, which is a really cool fringy shape. And for this shape, you can use it on the cat at the belly area, or perhaps on the forehead of the donkey. You can also use it there. If you're doing your own project and you want to use it, you could use it maybe for some grass or something like that. It would be really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a color that isn't the same as the background. Let's go with this pinky color. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a fringe for the cat's belly. So I'm going to have a little look at the cat's belly there, and then I'm going to have a look at my piece of paper, and I'm just going to draw out a rectangle that's a little bit bigger, longer than this area here. So I'll just put that up and then I'll just draw a rectangle using the edge of the paper. Is really useful just because you know it's already a nice right angle there. And then I'm going to cut that out using my scissors. I'm just going to hold it up against the template. And it does seem to be just a little bit big there. So because I've cut it out already, I just hold that up and have a little look. And I can always just chop a little bit off the end if it's too big, which is a really useful thing with this, because you get used to what size it has to be cut to whenever you've done it for a long time, but sometimes it can be a bit tricky at first. Now to make our fringe, we're just going to take one side of this piece of paper and fold it over. And when we fold it over, we'll see that it's a little bit more similar to this section here. Perfect. And now we've got it folded over, we open it back up again, and we want to make our fringe. So we're going to cut just down to that central line using the scissors, cutting along there, and making our fringe. That's great. So now you see if you put the flat side down on the paper, you've got this nice bit that sticks up and makes a fluffy belly for the cat. Perfect. So the next thing we're going to do is just glue this down. So we're just going to use our paintbrush on our PVA glue, put a little bit of glue on the bottom, just along this bit here. And I'm just going to stick that down. And what's really important today is to make sure that you count when you're sticking everything down, because otherwise things can get a little messy. So if we just count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that's really nicely stuck down. And if you fold the fringe down, you see that sticks up nicely there. So when you look at it from the front, it's got a nice fluffy belly. Perfect, so I'll just go through that one more time, and I'm going to do it on the donkey now, just so you, in case you've missed anything, we'll just go through it one more time. Oh, just so you know, I'm using both templates just to show you what to do, but please, if you're doing it at home, best to just pick one to do, because otherwise it's quite a lot to get through today and you might not have time to finish both of them. So again, I'm just going to have a little look at my donkey. I'm going to take my ruler and my pencil. You can also just cut it without using the ruler and pencil and then tidy it up afterwards. That's fine. About the same size as one of the fringy bits on the donkey's head. So I'm just going to cut that out. Just a roughly rectangle shape. We'll use it for this one here. Perfect. So I'm just going to fold it in half again. You've got the rectangle folded in half. And then we're going to use the scissors to just cut down to the middle. There we go. So that's the second one of our fringes made. So if you have any questions about this, be aware that you can always watch the video back afterwards. If you haven't quite got this one down, you can always watch it back and have a little look at how it's done again. But in the meantime, we're just going to hold this down onto our template for a good 10 seconds. But if you have any other questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to drop them into the chat box and Kate can ask them to me. Perfect. So we've got that shape made, that's great. The next shape we're quickly going to make is just this little one here, this little arch. And this is really useful. You might remember seeing this on the donkey's ears whenever I showed you the examples earlier on. And today I think would be good to use it for our donkey, and we can also use it on our cat as well. So I'm just going to take a nice blue bit of paper here, and I'm just going to draw a long strip using my ruler. And you might just want this to be about this as wide as your finger. That's quite a good width. Doesn't need to be too long, maybe about to there, maybe about as wide as your hand. Now we're going to cut this out. A long rectangular shape, like that, long rectangular shape. And the next thing to do with this shape is we just put it flat on the table, and we're just going to fold in one side, just a centimetre or so, don't have to be very exact. Fold in the other side. And then when we've got our two folds, we just bend that up, give it a little bend. And now we've got our little hoop, little arch shape, that one there. And to stick this one on can be a little bit tricky, but it's worth doing our 10-second rule for it because it does take a little bit of time to stick down. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on that foot that we've bent over, a little bit of glue on the foot that we've bent over on the other side. So you see the glue is there and there. And now we're going to very, very carefully stick this down to make part of the donkey's ears. We're just going to put our fingers inside there and count to 10. You can see on the camera.
Meriel, I've had a question in. This would be a good time to...
Yeah, go for it.
Somebody's asking, have you ever done this for people or dinosaurs? Or do you think it could be adapted quite easily?
I think it would be great for people and dinosaurs. I think that's a brilliant idea. I personally love dinosaurs. Yeah, I think you could. You could maybe use this fringy technique and you could cut the fringes into the shape of teeth to have that in the dinosaur's mouth. This arch shape you'll see that we're making now, you can use that to make the forehead of the cat, which is what we're going to do next. And you could definitely reuse that to make the dinosaur's kind of the shape of his face as well. And the same with the paws that we'll do later on. Those would very easily be dinosaur claws. If you wanted to make a person, you could definitely do that. I'll show you how we're going to make the nose of the cat in a bit. That could be maybe a head of a person. And then, yeah, you can build up the body, maybe using the arch technique. You can use the eye technique to make the eye of the person as well. So yeah, that's a great question. I think that's a really good idea, whoever asked that question. Perfect. Next, we will just quickly do one more arch shape for our cat. I'm just going to use this green here, I think. And yeah, similarly, we're going to draw out a strip about as wide as my finger, maybe. Use your thumb, maybe as wide as my hand. Or maybe, yeah, about as wide as your hand would be good. I'm going to cut that out as well. There we go. So we've got another one of our kind of long strips like that. And then I'm going to fold in one side, turn it around, fold in the other side. So we've got this kind of shape. And kind of bend it a little bit inwards, give it a bit of a bend inwards. And then you can use your PVA glue, put that on the little feet. That'll be stuck to the paper. That's great. Now I'm going to use this for the cat's forehead. And we'll probably need to use 2 of these to make it. Maybe I'll go this way. Or maybe 3 of them. There you go. So that's just one part. You'd have to do 2 more there to fill that out. And for the donkey, you'd have to do a few more to go up the ears. But I suggest doing every second color a different color. That would be quite nice if you were going to do that for the donkey. So again, I'm just holding it down for a good 10 seconds just to make sure it's really nice and stuffed down. So just make sure you can see that. Yeah, see from the front. You can see he's got a forehead there. That's great. So the next technique we're going to learn today is to make the eyes, and this would be quite cool for your person or for the dinosaur, if you were going to do a person or a dinosaur, you could use this technique to make their eyes as well. So let's start with our donkey. What I think is a really good idea is if you get a piece of paper like this one, the A4 size-ish, this long edge here, whatever long edge you can find. And if you just draw a line, again, about the width of your finger, it's good. So you've got a really nice long shape there. And then we're going to put along that line. You can make it wider if you like, then the eyes will just stick out more. It's up to you. Long strip of paper like that, and this is a really useful technique. It's called coiling, and it's really useful. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the very end of our piece of paper, try not to drop it, and we're just going to maybe make a tiny fold at the beginning, and we're just going to roll it up like a snail shell. Roll it up. It's a little fiddly, but it's definitely a good technique to learn how to make, because once you've made this, you can use it for eyes. You could use it maybe to make flower petals. You can make lots of them that way. You could make it out of white paper and put it on a blue background and make clouds doing this. Lots of options. So we've got it wound up there into a little spiral. And if I just let that go, you'll see it kind of pops out into a bigger spiral, which is totally fine. You know, then you've got a slightly bigger eye for your animal. And I'm just going to take my glue, put it on that little inside bit. And this is where it can get a little bit sticky. But if we just hold that down for a good 10 seconds, just to make sure it's nice and well stuck down. Holding things down for a long time is the secret to making paper relief sculptures. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So hopefully now, when we let go, we've got it all stuck down. There's a nice eye, which is great. If it's not sticking very well, you might just need to hold it for a bit longer. And it's just a little bit fiddly, this one, but it's a really good one to know. And what I'm going to do now, which is a little bit tricky, but it really works well, is I'm going to hold it really gently in my hand and just dip one side of the eye into the glue. And then I'm going to take it over to my template and I'm just going to drop it down on there, and don't touch it. This is the real secret, because this can get really sticky and messy. So once you've dropped it in the glue and popped it down on your template, you just leave it, don't touch it. It will stick on really firmly eventually, and you can see he's got a little eye there now. And you can do lots of things with these once you make them. You can put another color around like this. So you have like another shape around your eye. That's really cool. You can do another little strip like this, stick it together to make a teardrop shape and put that around it as well. So there's a few different options when it comes to the coiling. You can use it in loads of different ways. But right now we're just going to make one more simple coil just so that we know what we're doing. I'm going to take a piece of a sort of greeny color. It's quite a light green. It's not really a proper green, but it'll do fine. And then maybe about a finger width with my ruler. Draw that down like that. We've got a long strip again. Perfect. Now we're going to cut that out. Like I said before, if you are struggling with any of the steps, or if you miss any of the steps, don't worry at all. You can always watch the video back afterwards. So if there's a step that's not really working for you, that's fine. We can watch it back afterwards and learn it again that way. Sometimes you just need to leave something if it's annoying, or if it's getting very gluey, you just need to leave it, let it sit, let it set, and then once you've set it all, it'll be stuck on there. It'll be much easier to work with the next day. So I've just made another little roll using a long strip of paper, made another little coil, And again, I'm just going to let that pop open a bit, just so that it gets a bit bigger. And then I'm going to really carefully put a little bit of glue on the inside of this bit here. The glue goes on that inside bit. Close that over. And we're going to hold it maybe for 15 seconds this time, because these ones are a bit tricky. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Perfect. So that's stuck on there. And again, really carefully, just gently dipping the very, very bottom of it in the PVA glue, just the very bottom. Trying not to get too much glue on there. And we're just going to pop that down onto our example here. And don't touch it, let it stick on there. And you can see he's got an eye as well. And just because we're about halfway through learning our techniques now, what I think would be really, really good to do is, because I'm getting a little bit tired, I'm getting a little bit like restless, I think maybe what would be really fun is if we do a little bit of stretching. So what we've got today is a super cool, fun yoga teacher called Grace, and she's made a special video just for you. And that's just so that you can have a little stretch. You can do it sitting on your chair, and it's animal themed as well. So that will be really fun. And what I'm going to just do now is share that video with you. It's only 5 minutes long, so don't worry too much. It'll only be just 5 minutes, but it's a really good chance to stretch it out a little bit. So let me just share that with you. Perfect.
Beside you, shaking.
Ooh, that's the beginning I think we need. There we go. So yeah, enjoy yoga.
Hello! My name is Grace, and I am the magical Meriel's assistant. Do you remember who Meriel is? She is the lovely lady guiding you through your art class or your crafting. And rumor has it you have been making a cat and a donkey. So we're going to do some yoga, some movement, get a little bit of energy surging through the body, and we'll keep those animals in mind and maybe bring in a few sea creatures and perhaps some creatures that fly. Do chickens fly? Have you seen a chicken fly? We'll see. So we're gonna get going here, okay? You can just sit in your seat, make sure you're nice and steady, and when you're ready, I rhyme, start to shake the hands here. Give the hands a little bit of a shake, give the arms a little bit of a shake. Imagine you're on the dance floor, the disco, doing a dance. Or maybe we can think about a dog that's just gone swimming, and he's come out of the water, out of the sea or the lake or the river, the pond, and he's standing beside you, shaking all the water out of its hair right into your face. Shake it out. Really nice. And now we're gonna start to release our shakes and reach the hands up overhead. Reach through the fingers. Can you think of any animal that is very, very, very tall? Any thoughts? I'm thinking giraffe. So we'll reach here through the fingers as tall as we can. Imagine we're at our on safari, lengthening, trying to tip the nose of that giraffe. And when you're ready, let's turn our giraffe into an elephant. So let one arm drop, and now we are an elephant with our trunk swinging from side to side. And we'll lift that trunk up towards the sky because the elephant wants to sniff the clouds. And then take a little reach over to one side of the room, over, still nice and tall through the trunk. And we'll swap it out now. Let that hand drop and let the left hand come up. Take a little reach here, other side, leaning over. Of course, resist the urge to roll off your chair. Stay nice and seated. Really good. Dropping the hand down now, we're gonna transform into a cat. So, anyone done a bit of cat yoga before? Cat pose? We're gonna start to draw the chin in, round in the spine. Send your fingers forward so we get a nice arch here. And imagine we are a little shocked or startled cat. Your favorite color, you choose. And you might even begin to add in some sound effects if it doesn't annoy your parents. Big stretch down the back of the body here. And nice and slowly, we'll start to lift up and take the opposite shape here. Let's reach the fingers behind us, open the chest, and here we get to be a cow. So same thing again, maybe we start to move wherever we are, open the chest. Really nice. One more big breath here. And start to relax. Let's begin to fold over the legs. So trying here to reach our toes, keeping our seat on the seat, folding over, folding down. Can anyone think of what this animal could be? A few hints here. This creature lives in a dark, dark cave and is said to turn human and have fang teeth. What do you think, guys? We're about asleep in our cave. And now let's crawl back up. Whew. Get nice and tall again. And if it's okay with your parents, if you're nice and safe, let's bring our feet onto our chair and crawl up into a little ball. Wrap the arms around the knees. Keep nice and safe, nice and steady on the chair. Drop the head. And we are a little snail here. Perhaps we see snails in our garden around now or through the summer. Snailing along, nice and slow in their shells. So here we're in our own little shell. And then we'll let our feet drop back down. Okay. And let's hug one knee into the chest and pop our foot onto our other leg and let the knee relax. And here we want to mimic a hoppity boppity frog. Okay, so imagine our frog legs. We like to hang out both in the water and on land, and we love a good hop. But here we'll stay seated. We'll resist the hopping, maybe after this. And nice and slowly we'll swap here. Drop that foot, other knee towards the chest. Let's place the heel or the ankle on the thigh and let the knee relax. Because when there's one frog around, there's normally two. So here is our frog friend, the other side. And when you're ready, let your foot release to the floor. We're gonna reach our hands forward, spread the fingers wide here, and lift our chest up. Imagine we are a seal sunbathing on the beach. Do you like to sunbathe? Or sandcastles more your thing? And this seal is gonna transform into a lion. So, anyone done a lion's breath? We're gonna take 3 big lion breaths. Feel free to roar. When you're ready, a big inhale in through the nose and open the mouth wide. Stick the tongue out. 2 more times. Big breath in. Maybe this time we take a roar. Inhale. And there you have it. Yoga with grace. Back to you, Meriel.
Well, thanks everyone for taking part. in a little bit of yoga just to stretch it out, because sometimes that's a really good way of just keeping yourself, you know, stopping yourself getting too restless and just stretching it out while you're making. So I think that's always a really good idea. So I'm just going to get Kate to put the camera back on my hands, and we'll move on to our next technique. So I think what would be really fun next to do is to think about these pointy ears on the cat, because we need something to help him listen to. So we're going to do the pointy ears there. And I'm going to use this really bright pink for this one. We don't have the same shape on the donkey, but what you can do, and you might have seen earlier, is that you want to decorate the whole of the background as well. So you can always use this shape as part of your background to help you decorate. So to make these pointy ears, it's a little tricky, but it's a really fun one to learn. So if you take your piece of paper, I've got my pink piece of paper here, and I'm just going to fold in the corner of the piece of paper. Fold it in. So you've got a nice fold like that over the corner of the piece of paper, because basically what we want to do is make a sort of square shape. But this is a really quick way of doing it, which I always find really helpful. So what we're going to do is going to keep that squished down onto the paper, and we're going to use these lines here as a guide of where to cut. So I'm just going to cut along those lines there. And then I'm going to cut the same on this side. Oh, it's a bit tricky. Cut along these lines here. So that way, when you open it out again, you have a square sort of shape. If it's not perfectly square, that's fine. Doesn't matter, don't worry. But what we want is to have that central line, because it will really help us when it comes to making the next part of the shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our shape, we're going to take this edge here, and we're going to fold that all the way in to the central fold that you made when you folded in half. So if you can see there, this edge goes into the central fold, because we're going to try and make a kite shape first of all. And then I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. Take this edge here, fold it into the center. And there we have it. We've got our kite shape. Open it up, you'll see it's the square, and now it's become a kite. Quick thing to do here now, just so that we get a nice flat end to the shape, is cut off this bit that sticks out. So now when you open it up, you've got this diamond shape. I will go through this again a second time, so don't worry if you miss any of these steps. Now that you've got this diamond shape, what we want to do is turn it into a nice little sort of pyramid. And what we're going to do that is take our paintbrush with our glue down one of the edges there, and fold the other edge on top. And again, we're going to do our counting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. I was going to go to 11 there. Don't know what I was thinking. So we've got this little kind of like ice cream cone shape. And this you can either place somewhere on the background in the donkey, but I'm going to use it to make some ears for my cat. I had someone use it as a carrot for the donkey. You could use it for that, or it can just be a fun geometric background shape. So what I've done next is the side that you folded over, this side here, I've just put some glue on that. And then again, we're going to take our template of the cat and we're going to stick it onto the pointy bits so we can give the cat some ears. And hold that down again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Now we've got one ear for our cat. If you have time, you can always make the second ear now. If not, we can do it at another time. So don't worry. We're just learning the techniques today. So for our donkey, I'll just show you the same technique again, just in case you missed anything. So I've got a nice piece of paper with a right angle corner here, just your normal A4 paper. Just going to fold that in a little bit. However big you make this fold is how big your ears will be. And again, I'm going to just look at where those edges meet the rest of the paper and cut along. Again, cut along that side. Now when we open it up, we've got a square with a fold down the middle. Perfect. So we're going to make another one of our kite shapes first of all. So taking this edge here, we're going to bring that into that central line. So we want the edge to meet up with the central line, just like that. And now if we flip it over, and on the facing side where we've got this edge here, you want to bring that into the central line. So we have our kite shape. And if you didn't cut this bit off, you'll end up with a cat with a very pointy ear, which is fine. If you'd like that, you can do that. But I usually just cut it off because then it makes it more of a triangle shape, more like that. So again, we're going to just open that up again a little bit. Take this side here, put glue on this side. Perfect. We've got our glue on one side of the two kind of wings, and then we're just going to put that behind. And stick your fingers inside and just hold it for another 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now we've got that all stuck down. The side with that fold on it that you just glued down, we're just going to put some glue all over that one there. And you can stick this in the corner, perhaps of the background of the donkey. You can use it as a unicorn horn if you want. If you want to make your donkey into a unicorn, you can do that too. Lots of options. But what's nice about these relief sculptures is you have the face of the animal, and then you also maybe build up around it as well. So you've got lots of options to use these shapes in lots of different ways. It's great. So the next shape we're going to make is a little tricky one, but I think it's definitely worth learning, is this here, which is we can use for our mouth of our cat. And we can also use it for the kind of nose of the donkey. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of paper, this one, and we're going to, I think it's quite useful to just use like the width of your ruler for this. So line that up against the edge of the paper, draw a little line down the edge. Now we've got a long strip, just like that. If you've got a wider ruler, that's fine, doesn't really matter. You can use it in lots of different ways. So we're going to cut out this long strip. And now we've got this long strip of paper. We're just going to fold it in half, long ways. So we've got a long strip folded in half, long ways. This is a bit of leftover paper, so it's got some writing on the inside. That's fine. So we've got it folded in half, long ways. And now we're going to sort of think about what we did whenever we made our eyes for our animal, and we're going to try and curve this paper a little bit. So what I do is I just run my fingers down the edge of the paper and try and fold it in with my fingers as I do that, and that makes a nice curve. You can also maybe use your technique you learned earlier of the coiling, and you can kind of roll it up. And that way we make the paper nice and curved. And once you let go, you'll see that there's loads and loads of curve to that paper, which is great. Now we're going to fold it back on itself, just like that. So you get a kind of like, now you know you draw seagulls in the sky, sometimes you make this kind of V shape. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick this onto our template. I want to stick it on here, just above the whiskers. But so it kind of looks like a bit like a moustache actually, which is quite funny. Now I've made mine just a little bit too big. That's fine. You can just chop off the end, roll off the whiskers on either side, just like this a little bit. And now it's a better size for our drawing to make the mouth of the cat. And with this one, it is a bit tricky, but it's definitely worth learning how to do, because you can also use it for the bottom of the mouth, and you can use it in loads of different ways. You can make, you know, an outline for the cat if you like doing this. So what I'm just going to do now is I'm going to very carefully, like we did with the eyeballs, just dip this into the glue, really just in a little bit of glue. Don't make it go too deep into the glue because we don't want it too messy. And I'm going to just pop that onto this, and I'm just going to hold it there for a good 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now the best thing to do is to just leave it there and don't touch it, because otherwise it moves around quite a lot. So we'll just make that one more time for with our donkey, and I can show you again how we did it. So we've got a piece of paper here. We've drawn just along with our ruler to make a long strip. Gonna cut that out using our scissors. I might just cut the ends off mine because the ends are a little bit messy. Got our long strip like this, and then we fold that in half long ways, just to make extra structure, because otherwise it's a bit thin and it tends to fall over. Perfect. So now we're going to use our technique that we learned when we were coiling, and we're just going to use that to roll it up, just to get, it doesn't have to be super tight this time, just a loose roll. That just gets the paper in the right direction, gets it nicely curved. Perfect. Roll from the other side to get extra curves. Now our paper has a nice curve to it. And as I said before, you take your curve like this and you fold it back on itself. So it looks kind of like a line drawing of a bird or a mustache. And again, because it's a little bit big, I'm just going to cut off the ends. Might need to curve it a bit more after I cut off the ends. Just get those curves into the paper. Perfect. And now I'm just going to use that for our donkey, just to put the bottom of his face. So let's dip it in the glue and then put it on the bottom of our donkey there. So it's a little fiddly. Just need to hold it on for a good 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, better to do it flat on the table, really. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to go to 15 for this one because it's a tricky one. 13, 14, 15. It's nice and stuck on if you got on the bottom of our donkey's mouth. Oh. So if it keeps popping off like mine does, the best thing to do is to just hold it down flat on the table and to just put lots of pressure on it and to just keep holding on to it there for a few minutes. And it will eventually stick down. It can just be a little bit tricky, this shape. In the meantime, the next thing that might be fun to move on to is to give our cat some whiskers. So you can see here the cat's got lots of whiskers. And what we want to do to make those is this shape here. So we're going to use a long strip again. Here. And we're just going to put our ruler on our paper about as wide as your finger and just make a long strip. And we're going to cut those strips out. And now we're just going to do some zigzag shapes. So the first thing to do is just to fold up the bottom of your paper a little bit, just a little fold like that, and then turn it over And again, fold away from you. So the bottom of your paper is zigzagged again. And then if we turn it away from you again, fold away from you, turn it over, fold away, turn it over. When I say fold away, I'm just meaning that you're folding it back up onto itself, kind of in that direction, so it's away from you. Yeah, you might have used this technique to make, if you needed to make a spring for anything, you can use this technique. It works really well. So we're just going to keep folding that up until you get a really nice long zigzaggy, crinkly section. Fold it away, fold it away, fold it away, and keep folding it. Last bit's down. So there we go. Got a super long, springy, in this case, it's going to be a whisker for our cat. So take the very end of your spring, little bit of PVA glue on that, just on that end bit there. And then we're going to take our template and we're going to just stick it down. We might have to hold this one down for a while. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. So your cat's got a fun whisker and it looks really excited. And it's a very fun whisker there. So what I'm going to do is we're going to make this shape again, and I can show you another way that you can use it. If you're making the donkey template, again, this is a really good one for making the background, and you can use it in loads of different ways, and it leads on to a lot of other things that we have in store for you today. So I'm just going to take a strip of paper, again, about as wide as your finger. And then we're going to put that out there. And just do all of that zigzag folding. So we're folding up the first edge, turning it over, folding up the second edge, turning it over, and keep doing that. So we're going to keep turning over the paper and folding it away. And we're going to keep folding and folding, folding away to make a zigzaggy shape. I'm sure you've made these ones before. These are really fun to make. So we're going to just keep folding that in. Zigzaggy shapes are great. So there we are, we've got our zigzaggy shape there, again, similar to the whisker. And what's really cool with this one is we have it, you can see this way round on our cat. But we can also use it sideways as well. So I'm going to use my new zigzag I've made, and I'm going to use that to decorate part of the back of my background of my donkey picture. So it's just going to go along the bottom. So again, going to be really careful. Take my PVA glue, dip it in the PVA glue just a little bit. Try not to get it too gluey. Don't want to make too much of a mess. You can always shake off the excess, and then I'm going to place it at the bottom of my picture, just like that, and hold it down. Oh dear, the mouth's a bit awry there. That's fine. So yeah, we've got our zigzag, and we're just going to hold that down for a good 5-10 seconds as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the cool thing about the zigzag one is you can use it for loads of other things. So next we can use it to make some of these shapes here. And by doing that, we just need to take a slightly bigger piece of paper, maybe about this size here. Cut out a rectangle. Just make a rough rectangle. And because I'm going to use this for the donkey's nose, I'm just going to do the same thing we did before. Fold up the edge, turn it over, 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 fold up the edge, turn it over. And then we've got a really nice bit of sort of crumpled zigzaggy paper. And I think for this one, what I might do is I might use it for the donkey's nose. I think that would be quite a nice place for that one on this paper here. So I'm just going to dip that in the glue, really gently dip it in, then I'm going to pop it on the donkey's nose. Cool. And then just hold that down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's great. You can obviously use your techniques however you like. If you'd like to put it somewhere else, you can as well, but I think that would be quite a good one for the donkey's nose. And we can also use this technique to make our cat's paws, which is super fun and exciting. So again, just going to make a rectangle shape. Doesn't have to be very exact. I'm going to cut that out. And again, we can do fold it back, turn it over, fold it back, turn it over, fold it back, turn it over, fold it back, and turn it over. And what's cool about this is now you've got this nice crinkly shape for your cat's paw. Mine's a little bit big, that's fine. Off it a little bit. Now it's a better size. And what I'm going to do is just really carefully make our little claws. And I know whoever suggested that we might do dinosaur ones, this would be a really good technique for you to make your dinosaur claws as well. So what we're just going to do is we're going to just cut out a zigzag shape at the bottom, and that way we can make our paws. So I'm going to cut up here and then up to the fold on the next one. See the way I'm just using the natural folds of the paper to guide me. I'm going to zig cut into that one there. And then like this. And you can always make this exactly however you want it. Don't worry too much about getting it super precise. You might want to use your triangle technique to make the paws instead. You can always do that, just a smaller triangle. But I think this is quite a good one for our cat's paws. So you can see there, it'll just sit on the bottom with his pointy claws at the bottom as well. So I'm just going to dip that into some glue. Ooh, I made it very gluey. Oh dear. Well, as it's so gluey, I'm just going to put it on and I'm just not going to touch it because I know that that will get very messy if I move it around too much. Great. And the final technique I'm going to show you today, and it's a super, super lovely one. It's really handy whenever you're making paper relief sculptures, and it's a really pretty one as well. So I'll just show you how to make a lovely little fan. And you can use multiple ones of these to make a flower. That would be really good. You've got lots of different options with that shape. So we're going to do very similar to actually these two. You wouldn't think it, but they're actually all very similar, the processes. We're going to draw out a nice rectangle again. Don't worry too much about what size it is, because this one you can put anywhere on your display, so it can be whatever size you like. And we're going to cut out that rectangle. And we're going to do the same as we've done the previous two times. We're going to fold it in, turn it over, fold it in, turn it over. And that way we're just always folding away from ourselves. Fold away, turn it over, fold away, turn it over, fold away. And here you have your crinkly piece of paper. Now what's really cool is if we take this crinkly piece of paper We're almost going to make it look a little bit like a bow tie for a second, but then we're just going to carefully squidge it back on itself. So you can see you've got your piece of paper, close it, and then fold it back on itself. And you can see already that that's making a really cool, it kind of looks like pasta, doesn't it? It's got a really cool shape. And to glue it in place, we're just going to take our PVA and put a bit of PVA along the edge there, the inside. And now we really have to squeeze this one for a good, I'm going to say 15 seconds. So give it a good squeeze for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And look, you get this amazing fan shape, which is super, super nice. I'm just going to put that there on my cat, just next to his paws. I think that would be really nice. I think it would look like a really nice design, just putting that one on there in between the paws. So for the donkey, I'll do the same again, just to show you one more time. Again, if any of these, aren't working for you, or they, or you've missed a step, you can always freestyle and invent your own way of doing it. It's completely up to you as well. You can use these techniques and make whatever you like with them. So I'm just going to draw out another rectangle. Just use the edge of the paper because I know that fits nice and straight. I've got a rectangle there. And now I'm going to just cut that out. Just cut that off as well. So we've got a rectangle, and we're going to do exactly the same as we've done the last few times. We're going to fold up one of the edges, turn the whole piece of paper, and then fold it away from you again. Turn it over, fold away, turn it over, fold away, turn it over, fold away, turn it over. And there we have it. So we've got another one of our lovely zigzaggy concertina piece of paper. And we're going to take it, squish it together, and fold it up just like that. Perfect. And then just along the edge of the inside, we're going to put a bit of glue, the edge of one of those, either side, it doesn't matter. And then squidge that shut and hold it for a good 15 minutes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, 15 seconds, not 15 minutes, that'd be a long time. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And we've got our shape there. And you can see if you made loads of these, you could make a sun, you could do a full circle, you could make a flower. There are loads of options, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my donkey template here, and I'm going to just use this. And I'm going to just put it up at the top because I think it's quite a nice design there. Kind of looks like, those horses you see that have feathers on top of their manes. We've got it there on that one there. That's great. So I've shown you most of our basic step-by-step techniques. A few of the ones that we've made already, like this loop here. You can really easily make this into a round. So instead of folding down the feet, you can always take your long strip of paper, and if you simply fold it like this and glue those edges, you get a nice little round shape. And you can use this one to make the nose on your cat if you like. Maybe you need to make a slightly smaller one. And this shape's also really useful if you wanted to do the space around the wonderful eyes you've made. You can make him wear glasses. You have lots of different options with that shape. But those are most of the shapes that you would kind of come across And obviously all of these, we've just made one paw, we've just made one ear, we haven't made the whole thing, but you can always, whenever you have a bit of free time, you can make the second halves of the rest of the template with the ears. You can do the rest of those as well. So I hope you've learned lots of different kinds of shapes today to make, and that you'll be able to take those forward and use them in whatever you decide to design. And it could be abstract, it could be any sort of landscape. You can really use these in lots of different ways. And you can even, if you didn't want to do a paper relief sculpture, you could use these techniques like your pointy ears, and you can make them into perhaps a 3D freestanding sculpture as well. So there's lots of different options with those. I just want to see if there's any questions at the end of the session there, Kate.
No, we haven't had any questions in, so I think obviously explained it perfectly.
I did my best. I feel like the nose is a little bit of a tricky one even for me. So perhaps some very inventive and creative young person could come up with a better solution to making the mouth and the nose for me, because that would be great.
Well, I think all that's left to do is really just to say thank you so much to Meriel, and thank you to everybody who's joined us today. I'm just going to very quickly share my screen, which has got some details. So we would love to see what creations you've come up with today. And so if you know an adult with a social media account, you can use the hashtag on the screen, hashtag Harlow Sculpture Town in your post, and we'll be able to see it. Or you could email info@harlowarttrust.org.uk. We are going to, well, this whole session has been recorded, so if you need to go over any of the techniques, it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and we'll send an email directly to everybody who's signed up once that video is available. If you've enjoyed today, please go to our website, sculpturetown.uk, where we post regular news about what we've got going on, including new workshops. So I think that's everything. So thanks again to everybody, and thanks to Meriel. And
thank you so much for taking part, everyone. And thanks so much, Kate, for organising this. It's been really fun, and I hope that people have got a chance to learn something new.
It's been lovely. All right. Have a nice afternoon, everybody.
Bye. Take care. Bye.